Thanks everyone for joining in. I know people are still joining in, which is really great. We have Madhumurthy with us. He does not need any introduction. Still, I would say that even he is one of the leaders in the testing space who has been there, seen it all, done it. And Madhu, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Swagata, for inviting me to present this webinar. I am very glad to be part of devop-trics.
Excellent, Madhu. Thank you so much. So, Madhu, we will be, taking this webinar as a, kind of a question-answer sessions. Okay.
Okay.
So, I have a few questions for you. So, let us start with a question which is, which will be in the mind of many people who are typically either they want to join the IT firm or they are already working, but kind of feeling that they are stuck in their jobs or they're stuck in the roles. So there is a basic fear in the IT field of losing the jobs, and specifically nowadays because of DevOps, people are thinking that since everything is getting automated end to end, so what is there in it for them, and should they be worrying? So there is a concern that are all the existing skills gone, like with DevOps. Is it absolutely a new way, or how is it? So people would like to know that.
Okay. So thanks very much, Swagata, and also thanks each of you for taking time on a Saturday and participating in this. I'm not really aware of the audience, but I hope that a lot of fresh graduates aspiring for IT jobs are on this webinar, and also a lot of working practitioners trying to understand how DevOps kind of culture is transforming the software development careers. So what I suggest is that please feel free to ask questions, as many of them from your point of view, so that we can address each of those questions. And also to address Swagata's question, yes, Swagata, actually, if you look at any new movement that happens, especially DevOps, especially it's a new movement, though a lot of people have been talking about from almost a decade, but of late only it has come of its age, and more software development teams world across actually are embracing DevOps, and there is a lot of confusion created around this. And any new movement happens, there is a kind of danger that is actually everything old has already been kind of become irrelevant, and that is not the case. Only if you look at the way we were developing software from waterfall, then more informal kind of methodologies like Agile have evolved, people have started embracing it and perfected it, and now to achieve both IT agility and the business agility, the new way of working started. That is what we are calling DevOps. So absolutely not that all the old ways and old skills, old competencies, old careers are all of a sudden vanished. That's how sometimes some people create it. Like I keep hearing, which actually baffles me, that manual testing is dead. Actually, which is actually ridiculous kind of statement. Manual testing will never be dead. Only it will transform to kind of different ways to suit the quality at speed demands that actually the digital transformation has actually brought in. So to answer your question, let us actually look at how the software development life cycles have evolved over a period of time. So if you look at from a waterfall model, in a typical design build kind of project, a very structured, very systematic process used to be applied, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with this process. There was a lot of time, there are a lot of variety of team members, and with variety of skills and competencies working collaboratively and building a great quality of software. But the methodology that was adopted was kind of suiting the needs of the previous years. If you look, anyway, my goal is not to explain everything in this graphic, but fundamentally, in a waterfall kind of methodology, what used to happen is that there used to be large effort put on upfront planning, upfront definition of software, and then take it systematically. And every kind of event, once it is happened, planning is happened, then there is a transition that happens to another team, and then a design team starts designing it, and then a coding team will start constructing it, and then it will move on to testing and review team, and then it moves to production. That's how it used to happen. But fundamentally, there was no problem in that model. And the skills and competencies required from developers, the testing people, the release management people are as relevant today as they were yesterday also. So we have to kind of put in our minds that all those old competency skills have not become irrelevant because we moved to DevOps. Now, somewhere a decade back or so, a new development method has emerged, and we started calling it as Agile development method. So Agile development method looked at a little bit critically about the waterfall kind of mindset, and also the times have changed where software needs to be released much more frequently than it used to be. So that's how they created a more incremental, iterative kind of model, and various methodologies have evolved, especially the Scrum, which is very, very widely used. So instead of spending a lot of upfront time finalizing the planning, designing, and then only starting developing and testing, so Agile development model embraced a different kind of thing that, okay, incrementally and iteratively do planning. Don't unnecessarily spend too much time upfront planning, and anyway those things are going to change. So why should you waste a lot of time freezing out everything? So that was the mindset. Then that has led to a little bit of skill issues, because the people who were working in a little bit older ways of waterfall, they have to adapt to the new methodology. Instead of designing the system fully, incrementally how to design. Then a lot of best practices that were there in the waterfall model, like good kind of code reviews, code inspections, very systematic unit testing, analyzing code coverage, conducting static analysis. These were all very important practices that were there in the waterfall methodology. Agile did not say that we will abolish or throw away all those practices. In a way, Agile has taken all of those best practices, but they brought it a little bit informal kind of twist to that. Instead of doing review offline, I code and another colleague of mine offline in another time reviews, why don't both people sit and do a peer review and much more informally, much more faster way, find defects and fix them. That is the kind of culture. So what I'm trying to really make Swagata here is that though the new ways have come, they have adapted the old practices little differently. They have not abolished. So practitioners on this webinar, as well as the freshers on this webinar, must keep in that mind that all of our skills that we learned, they are still relevant. They have to be adapted only. Now, of late, we have been hearing from a lot of practitioners and a lot of great companies like Amazon, Netflix, Etsy. They've embraced this new way of working, and they called it as DevOps. And DevOps has again brought another angle to the way we are doing software engineering. So Agile definitely brought in what we call business agility. It has kind of clubbed the business teams with the software development teams. Software development teams, when I'm mentioning, it comprises of developers, business analysts, the QA testing folks, the security people, testing people, and also ops people. So by making them to work more collaboratively, informally, actually Agile has brought in a lot of business agility, because it adapted what we call iterative incremental methodologies. So world over, software teams started delivering software faster. But delivering software is one, deploying that software for the use of an end user is another. So That responsibility typically in our enterprises is taken by what we call ops people, IT operations people. So IT operations people and the software development teams still work for different purposes. That's why though Agile is able to rapidly deliver software with same rapidity or rapidness, we are not able to deploy the software onto production. That is where this new kind of culture, new kind of mindset thinking has emerged, and we are calling it as DevOps, where let us actually take the feedback from the production systems very quickly back into the development teams and make changes, very small changes, and deploy them as fast as you can. And to kind of make it happen, we have to make the processes and mindsets work together between the development team and also the operations team. So again, today, right now, a lot of people are still struggling to embrace DevOps because it's not a easy affair. It is not a technology. It is not a simple development process. It is much more of a culture of doing software development and deploying it rapidly. So that's where actually more and more teams are working, and the IT agility is the real issue there. So to answer your question, small question in a long way, is that the skills and competencies point of view, nothing has been abolished. It is a new movement, and all the processes, all the skills and competencies that we have need to be reinvented to suit the Agile and DevOps way of working. Hope I answered your question, Swagata.
Yeah, definitely, Madhu. And thanks for taking time and answering this. So much explaining that in a very nice way and setting the context. But when we say that now the skills are still relevant, people might have a question that then why do they need to upgrade their skills, right? So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
would you like to throw some light on that aspect?
Yeah, so that's a very, very important question. And for example, of late, we have been hearing a lot about DevOps. What is DevOps? There is a lot of confusion also is created. A lot of teams world over are actually doing software development. Agile has matured, and now people are taking that to reach what we call this IT agility by having kind of DevOps culture. So why we need to upgrade our skills? Actually, first thing is that a lot of times nowadays we keep hearing that we need DevOps engineers. But actually, DevOps engineer, in my opinion, is not a job title. Though still, if you look at in this graphic, indeed, the job site shows that there is a sudden exponential demand growth with respect to DevOps engineers, or in resumes where there is a word about DevOps, those resumes are really in demand, and also they are actually getting more salaries. And this kind of trend is understandable. Now, if you look at it, more and more teams, after observing the success that these good companies like Twitter, Netflix, Amazon, and they claim the very high degree of deployment frequency and the reliability of their deployments, more and more organizations are looking at this DevOps. And though whatever way they were doing in the old way, now more and more organizations are trying to improve the way they are developing the software and doing it faster in an accelerated manner. So that is where actually the traditional software engineers of the software development teams, when I'm talking software development teams, I'm talking about scrum masters or project managers, I'm talking about business analysts, product owners, I'm talking about software engineers, I'm talking about the QA testing people, I'm talking about release management and build management people. Everyone comprises of software development team. So as the teams are kind of embracing more mature Agile and DevOps, they are expecting from these engineers not only the skill to do their specific job, but a lot of adjacent kind of technologies. That is what we are calling as the DevOps skills, which we will talk for each of the role in the coming kind of slides. But just to answer your question, first thing is that DevOps engineer, though people are using as a new role, it is not really a new role. What is really industry looking for? The same roles from a programmer. They're expecting some skills around understanding DevOps, the continuous delivery mechanism, and some tools and technologies that make it happen. And similarly, for QA testing people, still the industry expects the QA testing person to be good at QA, good at exploratory testing, but expecting that they are also knowledgeable about some of the tools and technologies the developers are using, and some tools and technologies the deployment people use, so that they are well-rounded professionals to work in a DevOps kind of environment. So yes, why we have to really learn DevOps skills? Because the industry is very rapidly embracing, and if you are stuck to our old roles and delivering the old roles with old skills, then there is a danger for us that we may get outdated, and that might lead to kind of losing jobs and all. That is why we need to do that. That is one reason. Another reason, there is a demand, and there are good high salaries being paid for those skills. That is the reason why we have to really worry about acquiring these new skills around DevOps. So that.
Okay, thanks, Madhu. So what I understand from your explanation is that one, DevOps engineer, this word is actually not a job title, but it is being
Yeah.
used in multiple websites and job portals as a requirement that we need a DevOps engineer. But what would
Yeah.
it would typically mean is that a person would still be doing one specialized activity like development or testing, but
Yeah.
will be a jack of all trades, in which they will understand the aspects of development, testing, automation in an overall way, and also operations and the deployment. Correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that. Yeah.
Okay, great, Madhu. Thanks for explaining this. Now, I mean, what I would request you is, how, suppose we don't know from the audience that who is playing what role in their current organizations, but if somebody is a manager, or if somebody is playing like a QA role or a dev
Yeah.
role, or in
Yeah.
operations, so how should they perceive this DevOps, and how should they see opportunity in that, and what all specific things they should do? I know it's a very long long thing to
Yeah.
answer, but if you can
Yeah.
answer this, one by one, that will be really great, Madhu.
I'll do that, Sagata. It's a great question. And I just put a graphic there. So as Agile and DevOps has emerged to kind of automate and orchestrate the whole software engineering environment across Agile planning, coding, building, testing, releasing, deploying, operating, monitoring. It's everything is being looked as a continuous chain of events. When we are talking about continuous, I mean uninterrupted, means nothing stops anytime. Everything keeps moving, moving, and moving. That's what is called continuous way of developing software, delivering software, and deploying software. That is what is the aim of the real DevOps. So to really enable this, there are plethora of tools. And if you look at this graphic, yes, to do agile planning and coding activity, these tools are kind of generally used by all the programmers and also QA testers, like the version control systems, like the modern ones. Git is a very important thing, or Bitbucket. One of these people have to be kind of conversant with that. Even freshers who are aspiring for jobs, they have to look at Git. It is not a rocket science tool, but whatever work they do, they should kind of check into one central repository and understand the whole process of those branches, merging, and what is this main and trunk. Those basic things people have to gain a concept. Then world over, the most frequently used tool for agile planning is Jira, for both issue management and planning and all that. So if people are conversant with the tool, that will help. And again, every developer, they use one or other IDE like Eclipse, So to be conversant is very, very important. Then there are a set of dependency management and build management tools, especially there are many tools, but if you understand what is the concept of this build management and understand how Maven helps you achieve that and use in some of your projects whenever you are doing build Maven project management and get those dependent libraries, and so that without any headache you are able to do your work very, very clearly. So Maven is a very important build management tool. And then as developers and testers, the testing tools, especially the Selenium as an open source API, is getting extremely popular. Actually, it has dominated the scene in the last 3-4 years. It is actually beating outright the commercial off-the-shelf tools. So Selenium is an important tool, not only for a testing professional, but it is important for developers as well. And again, the continuous integration is a very important concept of Agile and DevOps. So many tools are there like Bamboo, Jenkins, but if you understand the practices and the conceptual way of continuous integration and then be able to configure and use a tool like Jenkins, it will make you very good. Then as you release and deploy, these are typically the tools or technologies used by the ops people, but Agile and DevOps actually push a particular mindset that is called shift left and shift right of development and testing. So shift left to happen, whatever you are doing, the deployment happens only after all the software is developed. Then somebody will figure out and kind of configure a system and deploy the software. But now to shift left, developers very early in the life cycle, as they check in their code on their own desktops, they have to build a whole system and deploy a lot of other dependable systems and prove their changes on their own system. So they should be also hands-on some of these new technologies like Chef, Puppet. These are typically, they're called configuration management tools, and many tools are there, but if you can understand one, it will be great. And then once the system is deployed into production, the earlier waterfall model, the life of a software development team was over. Once you were able to help deploy your whatever software change to production. But when we are talking about DevOps, the thing is not ended. That's where actually again things starts. That's where as soon as the deployment happens in production, start monitoring what is happening with your production site on the application from a performance point of view, or a security point of view, understand all the events. So that is where the tools like Nagios, New Relic, and many more are there, but you understand what is this production monitoring and learn some tools around that. And then some of the event logging systems that are getting extremely popular, every developer, tester, ops person must be aware in this new environment, are called event logging kind of systems. That is an example of that is Splunk. So you have asked a question. Now what I will do, Swagata, is that I will take each role and what they have to focus to become more DevOps oriented QA engineer, or DevOps oriented software engineer, or DevOps oriented ops professional, or DevOps oriented Scrum Masters. Let me take you through that. Next graphic, I have a developer. So what I'm telling on the top line is that the traditional role-bound software development team becomes increasingly redundant. I'm using continuous tense, but it is kind of happened already, in my opinion, because recently I went to the Netherlands and consulted with a large bank there. I have seen the kind of change that is taking place. It is actually dramatic. So we have to kind of be ready for this. The traditional software development team has become redundant now, and how it is affecting a developer. If I'm a developer, definitely I have to be very good at programming technology, at least one of them wherever I am focused. Then I have to be really good at the unit test framework, whether it is a JUnit or a NUnit or whatever technology specific unit framework. Then you have to be well versed with the modern IDEs, the Git kind of distributed version control system, continuous integration servers like Jenkins, and then in traditional waterfall also we used to do static analysis. But now the static analysis, especially tools like Sonar Cube, are being leveraged by every development team. So how to kind of understand and put Sonar Cube static checks into your code and trigger them through Jenkins. These are extremely important. And also, once you complete your unit testing and static analysis, and also understand code coverage, these are fundamentals of a software engineer, whether they are working in traditional waterfall kind of environment or in an agile environment, or even when they work in a fully mature DevOps environment. These are fundamentals that will not change. But along with this, as a programmer, to become a more savvy DevOps professional, you should do some things onto your right. What is the right? In any software, very simply put, what we'll do, we'll develop that, we test that, and we deploy that. Those are the three critical things happen to any software. Now, as a DevOps kind of software engineer, you have to focus on learning what we call ATDD and BDD framework, because testing is being shifted left, and so testing is becoming a responsibility of the people who are coding it. In more and more, if you go to Google or Amazon or you go to Microsoft, testing is performed by programming kind of people only. And when we're talking about BDD, the behavior-driven development means development is driven by the descriptions of behavior that are done upfront. Or when we are talking about ATDD, acceptance test driven development, means you have to, before even writing code, you have to define your acceptance tests, and using those acceptance tests, you must drive your development. That's where actually the responsibility of software engineer, the programmer role, is actually increasing. And more these modern software development organizations are expecting from a developer role these kind of new skills. If you have these skills, you are welcome to those teams. Not only you are welcome to those teams, they're willing to pay higher price for you. That is why you have to focus on these skills. And automation is no longer the responsibility of a team member that is playing testing role. Yes, they will do it, but it is now expected even from developers as well as to do some UI-based automation, performance-based automation, API testing. So all these skills even for developers. So developers, please don't think that, hey, these are testing skills. Testing is a third kind of level job. Why should I bother? No, you should bother. If you don't bother, you are putting your career at risk. Not only your career at risk, you are putting your software engineering team at risk. That is why you have to learn the skills that are needed by testers, even they are needed by developers. And as I told you, today in the modern software development, very early in the life cycle, we developers who make changes, we conduct a lot of tests on our own desktops. And that is where actually we have to deploy a software kind of test environment on my own system and be able to test. So that's where actually the tools like Chef, Puppet, Ansible, though you will not be doing ops work. Nobody is telling that a software programmer is going to do ops work. But to shift left software development and testing, a developer also must be able to configure a cloud-based server in virtual way, and then deploy the software build on that and conduct a kind of testing, and then only check the software into your build system. So that is the modern practice software engineers are using. So you have to be hands-on and experts in this. And also, I put there actually Nagios, Splunk, Vagrant, Docker. These are also deployment and application monitoring tools. But now, because the feedback, as soon as your change is deployed into code, immediately a feedback should come to you, so that if your code has brought the performance down of the production system, then you should not wait for months to change it. If you wait for months to improve performance of a production system, your company is gone out of business. Or if there is a security vulnerability happened because of some change to the software and it has been deployed, it has to be done. At least it has to be known in minutes, and it has to be fixed in maybe in few more minutes. That is the demand from everyone. That's why if you are going to work in this kind of environments as developers, and if you are putting around you a boundary that let me focus on my things and then I am great contributor, no, you are not able to contribute. Your job can be at risk. I am trying to use some words like warning, but that is what I observed recently when I went to do a consulting engagement in a very large scale high-tech European bank. That's why out of that experience I am talking. So now let me move to the role of the tester. So if you look at the tester, yes, testers have to be good at testing, and in an, if at all some strategy, leadership, thought leadership kind of things have to happen from testing people, it has to happen from testing. But again, within the testing also, it is getting more and more technical kind of role. Here, yes, we were doing good functional testing. The domain knowledge of testers is, and manual testing will never be dead. Good quality manual testing is a must. But along with that, expectations from testers by these teams is that, yes, they should be able to be more technical in nature. That's where you too have to understand ATDD, BDD, and be conversant with Selenium, Appium, JMeter, minimum, those tools, and also understand. Because if you look at in Agile DevOps, and we are talking something called continuous testing. Continuous testing means uninterrupted testing. What do you mean by uninterrupted testing? Any testing that is uninterrupted will be done frequently. Very often it will be done. Maybe daily you will be doing 10 times regression testing. And that is what I'm calling frequently. And whenever you are doing frequently and those tests are continuous, then it has to be very reliable first thing, and they have to execute very fast. If you depend only on manual testing, it may take time, then it will not be called continuous. That is why automation is important. But again, in automation, if you depend only on the graphical user interface based automation, the test execution speeds are not good. That's why it will not make you a continuous testing. To make test execution faster, not only you have to automate, you have to automate using various other touch points, the unit tests, the API tests, which execute very fast. So a very good ratio of all these tests have to be automated and executed. That is where a lot of new expectations are happening for the QA testing folks. So be aware of that. And manual testing in the traditional way, I come from that background. So we used to have a lot of time. We used to understand the requirements extremely well. Then we used to apply all the test design techniques, write good documents, get them reviewed. Then when the build comes, we used to do thorough testing and find good defects, and we used to be proud of that. But today, in agile environment, when the sprint cycles are 2 to 3 weeks, that kind of manual testing will not be performed. It will be more exploratory testing. Again, exploratory testing is not very well understood by testing community still. A lot of things have to be learned there. A lot of very good heuristics proposed by various testing gurus. We have to understand them, master them, and kind of get into our DNA. Then we do exploratory testing, but we apply some kind of heuristic mindset and test design process without having to document. That's why learning exploratory testing, in my opinion, is extremely important. And earlier, we used to spend a lot of time doing everything testing to regression testing. But now in a continuous test environment where tests have to be done extremely faster, though we have a lot of large suites of regression suites, we don't have time to execute all of them. So we have to use this philosophy or principle called risk. What change I am doing to the software? Because of this change, what risk can occur? And how do I mitigate these risks by running what subset of tests? These decisions have to be made either manually or using some tools. So risk-based testing is becoming important, and this is your central thing. But you should not be satisfied only with that. You have to learn towards your left some of the development tools, and also you have to learn some new skills, tools related to deployment that your IT ops brothers and sisters are doing. So that's where actually, at least as a tester, you must learn one programming language, understand at least one testing, unit testing framework, be very conversant with IDEs, Git, Jenkins, because all your automated tests, everything will be put into version control. So then what is the static analysis? How do you put some of the static analysis using a tool like SonarCube into your kind of Jenkins batch file? All these are extremely important. And as testers, you will be also kind of configuring test data, test environments on the fly, on the cloud, using virtual technologies. So that is where tools like Chef, Puppet, Ansible, one of them, and understand. Then the application monitoring tools like Nagios and event logging tools like Splunk, if you understand and be hands-on, it will be good. And any container kind of technologies such as Vagrant, Docker. So what I'm telling is that don't put a boundary. I'm a tester, let me do this. Then absolutely, without any doubt, I'm telling, your jobs are at risk. So again, as freshers, when you are kind of getting into the industry, when you are learning testing, don't go to this old testing tool training, some manual testing plus testing tool. I'm telling you, these are waste kind of training programs. Don't waste your training and time there. So choose a right partner who offers a full, well-rounded SDET kind of courses. That is the message I want to give. Now, going back to the ops people, maybe some of them are there on this webinar. So yes, even in the ops, in the DevOps, things have changed. All these manual ways of configuring environments and deploying software, all those days have gone. First thing is that virtual way of configuring, deploying has been there. But now what we call infrastructure as code, you also will have to write code. If you think that coding is not my cup of tea, you will soon be out of your ops jobs, because the ops side, release management side, things have absolutely changed. So while you focus on learning the tools that are needed for you to stay in this DevOps kind of environment, all these tools I told there, deploy tools, perfect them, learn them, but at the same time, look towards your left, what testers are doing. So understand the issues related to testers. Testers face a lot of problems when they shift left testing. A lot of software these days uses a lot of services, third-party services. So service virtualization, mocking a service, because at the time of testing, I don't have a real service through which I can test my functionality at that time. So for that, I don't need to wait till the real service comes. So I can create a mock using a service virtualization tool. So you have to also, as ops people, understand that, because you have to help your testers and developers to do that. And testers also figure out a lot of times test environments and test data. These are the real complex issues which actually waste a lot of time in testing and makes things slow. That is where, as ops people, you have to look at those challenges and create some environments for your teams, like test data as a service on the cloud, because these are the skills ops people only will have. Conversation, you have to do good conversations with the testers and give them these facilities, test environments as service. These are the kind of help your testing people will be needing from you. So you have to also understand that, and you have to understand some of the issues and empathize with your development people. So you, anyway, because the deployments are becoming more as code now, you have to learn coding. So programming language is important, and understand these IDEs, and even all these deployment scripts, configuration scripts also are put into Git. Everything will be there. So also you understand the continuous integration best practices. What is feature branch? What is main branch? What is the best way to integrate at what times, and what happens post integration? All these things that your development people are worried about, also you should not perfect it, because you will not be asked to develop software. You will be in a well-rounded DevOps professional. You will be easily interacting and working with your development and testing people. So that is the message for ops people. Ops people, you people have to immediately upgrade. If you are only depending on some desktop kind of administration, manual system configuration kind of administration, it is high time you learn some of the new deployment tools and technologies, and also shift left your kind of interest towards testing and development. Okay, so finally, before I close, Swagat, because you asked a small question, but I thought I'll explain for everyone. Now comes to these managers. So managers' job also is changing. If you're a Scrum Master, then because you are in a mature agile DevOps kind of thing, there will be discussions around continuous delivery, continuous integration, continuous testing, continuous deployment. So you have to really be conversant with these principles, best practices of this continuous everything aspect, and be able to play a role of that coach for your team. So even so basically you might have to focus on conceptual understanding of these new issues and new best practices, because you will be the change agent for the team. So you will have to guide them. So you have to, maybe for your team, for your engineering environment, you may be the in charge person to build continuous delivery strategy and design that. So you have to work with others to do that. And again, based on your goals of coverage and speed, then you have to adjust this and keep on transforming. So these are all very, very important for Scrum Masters. So this is what I actually thought I'll share with you, Swagat, and through you to the teams who are participating in the webinar. So now I'm open to questions. Please, Swagat.
Thanks a lot, Madhu. Thanks for explaining so beautifully. I would just like to add on top of what you just said that yes, definitely programming and learning to code is very important. And I would like to just emphasize on one fact that it is really not that difficult, even for the operations people. If you see how Ansible works with, say, YAML kind of a configuration, it is very much English-like code that they have to write, and it's very easy to learn. Now, I would like to say to the participants that do not get bogged down by the fact that yes, you need to learn automation, you need to learn coding. It is not a rocket science. If you put your heart and soul into it, within 3 to 4 months, you will see massive transformation in yourself, and you can, start seeing things very differently. All right.
And absolutely, you're right, Sangata. And also, it's important to stay in job. Also, now it becomes important.
Correct. Very much true. So, guys, the forum is now open to you for questions. So, please feel free to ask your questions.
Hi, Madhu.
Hi.
This is Venkateshwarlu. I'm a Oracle developer. I have experience in SQL, PLSQL, and shell scripts. Just I want to know, recently in my project, it has planning to move it to DevOps. We are using Bitbucket and Jenkins. For example, recently we have developed one code that we are integrated my code to Jenkins. Just I want to know, is it useful for my technologies also? For example, I need to learn this DevOps. Just I want to know on this.
Yeah, absolutely, Venkateshwarlu, because even if you look at the Oracle as a product company, now whatever changes they make, they're bringing those changes very rapidly to the customers. They're making them whatever general available release those changes as soon as they can. Now, again, the new ways of let's say if you want to a change happen to the Oracle, one of the functionality of the product. Now that change I need to test very early in the life cycle. Then I may have to kind of use a lot of these deployment technologies, build all the code on my own system, and write some code to kind of build and configure a system, and then build the new changes onto the whole software and run few tests automatically, have a local CI server which actually does that. Once only I'm confident, then only I will really check into Bitbucket. So these are all important to make it kind of accelerated. So yes, you have to, again, Oracle itself is talking about how they are bringing DevOps within their own engineering environment. So they may have already brought in some of these deployment technologies and the automated testing technologies. So because the whole environment is changing, you also have to look at it as an overall, from planning to operate and the full cycle, and where you can help your rest of the team. You are playing a particular role, but how can I help a QA tester in this my project? How can I help or make a ops person's job easy? This kind of thing. Anyway, Swagata, you also feel free to answer. No?
Yeah, of course, Madhu. But I think you're answering well, and if the question is already answered, then we will go to the next one. So Venkateshwarlu, was the question answered?
Yeah, it's clarified. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I see some questions on the chat window. Sheetal Wagmare was asking that can we use Scrum or Agility in DevOps team?
Yeah. So Sheetal, it's like this. DevOps is a new way or culture in which whole dev and ops teams work together. It is now, so the foundation for DevOps, the new way of working and achieve this speed of deploying software with high quality can be achieved if the foundation is on Agile. Because already Agile is a very informal culture, and the software development team is a Scrum team comprising of product owners, developers, already informally working, and more rapidly in incremental 2-week sprints, they're able to deliver software. So now the next step is at the same speed deploy that software also. That is their DevOps system. So the foundation is DevOps, Agile, and Agile teams will, the next stage they will try to achieve is DevOps. That is how you have to understand. Yes, you are right. Agile teams have to understand this new DevOps thing. And within Agile team also, if you are a developer or a tester or an ops person, you have to learn some new technology skills and understand this culture of doing DevOps.
Okay, so on top of this, I would just like to add one thing, that Sheetal, for Agile, right? Agile is like a methodology, but DevOps is more of a culture. Okay, so yes, I mean, you can practice Agile within a DevOps culture. That is absolutely fine, and that's how the way it is done actually. The DevOps just means that in Agile, the dev team and the test team and the business team works together. Here, the operations team also works together with that team. So that is how, in the DevOps culture changes Agile a bit, but there is no fundamental change to it. Agile is very much applicable. Did that answer your question? Okay, I see one message from Sheetal on the chat window that thank you. Okay, I hope that it is answered. Now there was one more question from Srinivas Rao. What are the scripting languages required before we start DevOps? So Madhu, let me take a dig at this question. Okay. So majority of the things that you see in DevOps, those are built on open source platforms. So Java is very important to know as per my knowledge, and based on Java only, there are many other little bit variants of that, like Groovy, okay, and those kind of the things which will help. And when you talk about the ops part of it, majority of the deployment and say system administrator related works are done using Linux. So knowing Linux commands a bit, especially for this, system administrator type of work, when you say install a program from the command line, when you say update configurations, how to, this is not a programming language as per se, but Linux uses Python. It's very well integrated in Linux systems. So if you have the knowledge of Python, it definitely helps in understanding many of the tools that fit into the DevOps life cycle. So just to summarize, Java is very important, and based on that, you can learn very quickly Groovy scripting, because Jenkins uses Groovy scripting internally, and then Python will be very, very important. From the UI perspective, if you are suppose using any tool like Protractor, then JavaScripting becomes a little bit important to know, but it is not, again, very, very different from in any other programming language. It's just a scripting language. If you know Java, you very well will understand JavaScript. Did that answer the question?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, great.
You mean to say, hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
You mean to say for learning DevOps, we should know that the shell script, any one shell script. Why I am asking is, I know the shell script. Is it that is much enough, or do I need to learn Python also?
If you learn at least the basics of Python, it will be beneficial for you, because there are some tools which use Python scripting as the primary alternative. They can support some other languages as well, but if you just if you know shell scripting, then I think it will not be a big problem for you to just install Python and say pip on the all the modules that are related to Python. Okay, so you can start practicing it, and again, it does not take too much time to learn Python. It's a beautiful language, and it's a very easy to use and very powerful language.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. And one more question came, that how about DevOps is useful to freshers? Although we answered that in the webinar, but we will definitely help you with that, Amarnath. Madhu, would you like to answer this?
Yeah. So yeah, that's very important question, because even practitioners who have been working in the industry for quite some time are kind of getting confused. What is this DevOps and how my job will change? Now, from a fresher point of view, anyway, that confusion is much more larger. So, from freshers' point of view, what I'm saying is that when you are aspiring to work in an IT team, doing either development or testing, or being a system administrator or a ops person, fundamentally things have not changed. So you have to have basic things. If you want to work as a test engineer, yes, you have to be good at testing concepts. Would have done during your training some kind of manual testing, and also you are good at one programming language like Java, and be good at Selenium. So that is how in the old way, in the old times, we used to get jobs, and these jobs used to be some 10,000, 12,000 rupees. And if you are a programming kind of aspirant, you will go to some training institute, learn Java, write some few programs as you are getting trained, and also you prepare very well for interview. And if you crack the interview, again you will go and join as a programmer, either a web application programmer or a mobile programmer. That is how jobs used to come to freshers. And fundamentally things have not changed. But, and again, the jobs you used to get is around 10,000 to 12,000 a month if you are going on an off-campus route. But things have changed now. If you go for an interview with a very strong resume and tell that, hey, I have learned testing, but I know not only fundamentals of testing and did some manual testing and exploratory testing, I also know Selenium, and I can program in Java. I know a little bit of API testing. I have worked within the Git environment. I have actually put my scripts into a batch file in Jenkins, where at the time of build itself, I triggered my GUI tests. I have used a little bit of service virtualization principles using an open source tool called Hoverfly. And I kind of configured my own virtual machine using one deployment tool, and created an installation of my software and tested that. If you write them on your resume, and if you have really done that, and actually the interviewers will be very excited. They will like to talk to you. And once they talk to you, and because you have done, you are able to explain, even not very thoroughly, but whatever you have done, you are able to explain. You will kind of get a job, definitely. Not only that, why I'm telling this is that you will get a better pay, because more and more freshers today, they are aspiring for not only a job, a little bit decent paid job. So if you are aspiring for that, you have to go learn. Again, you have to first decide, I want to be a programmer or a tester or an ops person. First you decide that. But once having decided that, don't go to some silly institute teaching some whatever the age-old way of teaching. Don't go. Look for some professional organization which understands the modern software engineering and create an exposure for you and prepares for you for such an interview and job. I'm guaranteeing you, you will get better jobs, better paid jobs. So this is my advice to freshers. Hope I have made myself clear on this.
Yeah, Madhu, I think it was pretty clear. In the interest of time, we will be taking just one more question. And the next question that I'm going to take is from Sandeep. Okay, so what he's asking is, he's more of a deployment person doing deployment with Microsoft SCCM. How will the new deployment tools that we mentioned, like Chef, Puppet, Ansible, Nagios, Docker, will be useful over SCCM? Will these replace SCCM? It's a very good question. Uh, I mean, Madhu, let me take a dig at answering this. If I miss something, then probably you can add. So, see, there are multiple technologies which exist for deployment. Windows has its own stack, okay? But there are multiple clients who do not prefer to use Windows, okay? So they prefer to use Linux and all those, related open source platform, including say Mac. Mac is also pretty close, although it is not a free thing. So many of these tools that we said, they are for high scalability infrastructure in which you have say hundreds of servers, and you are deploying the code and the applications and on hundreds of servers at the same time. Then you will need all these things. Yeah, Microsoft is also capable of doing that, but again, it is only it stays with the Microsoft technology, and all these things are managed by Microsoft technologies only. So if you are working for Microsoft and you decide to work for Microsoft throughout your say job life, maybe yes, you can stick to Microsoft technologies. But if you think that you might even go out and look for some better alternatives, and in the market, the value of say Chef, Puppet, and containerization technologies like Docker, these are very very high. So you might want to take a look at these and learn these. These are not going to replace ACCM. Okay, these will be parallel technologies offering something new, or it will have its own USP. But yeah, Microsoft will also continue their own suite, but these tools also will be there predominantly to target Linux type of servers, where a lot of deployments can be done together on multiple servers. I hope I made myself clear. And Madhu, would you like to add something to it?
I think you are perfect because anyway, Microsoft will evolve its own technology, and they will also bring decent tools competing with rest of them. But if you look at diversity point of view and the open source, because adoption rates are very high for whatever tools you mentioned. So, deployments professional, I think you must look into these things, and we can achieve some diversity in skill sets that will put you in a good stead with respect to your career. That's going to be my advice.
Great. So,
so does that mean that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Swagat, does that mean that these new technologies will not be useful for any of the Microsoft platform like Windows 7 or Windows 10?
See, majority, see, if we talk about Ansible, suppose, right? It's not like it does not work on Windows, but the controller machine As a controller machine, the Windows is not supported. Okay. So there will be some kind of reservations unless they decide to support Windows wholeheartedly. There could be some reservations here and there, but yeah, definitely Ansible can be used to deploy on Windows servers. It's possible, of course it's possible, but the controller machine cannot be Windows. I hope you're getting my point.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Now
that answers my question.
Great. So guys, so contact@devop-trics.com is our email ID. You guys can feel free to drop any questions and we will definitely respond. In the interest of time, we will have to close this webinar. It was a overwhelming response and we are very happy to get questions from all of you. And I mean, I'm sorry that we are unable to take all the questions right now. Please save this email ID. Do feel free to write to us. We will write to each one of you. Okay. It might take a bit of time, but we will definitely respond.
Thank you everyone for your participation and Happy New Year. Have a lot of fun, but be safe.
Thanks everyone. Have a great time ahead. Okay. Bye.